Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Wang, and today we're going to talk about the 5 signs of a successful relationship. But before we start, I would like to address a common question that I often hear. And the question is being in love enough to make a successful relationship? In my opinion, the answer is no. The feelings of being in love or saying I love you is meaningless if actions don't back up the feelings of the words. In fact, you've heard me say in my previous videos that romantic love is not real love. The romantic phase is temporary, and as the partners get to know each other more, they learn of all of each other's flaws, imperfections, and see their true colors, so to speak. Then it's seeing if both can accept each other for who they are, and then working through conflicts that will pop up. All this requires time, and if both can successfully work through the dating stages, then real love can happen. And if you haven't seen one of my previous videos called the four signs of real love, then I highly recommend that you watch that video to understand what real love looks like. So let me just stop right here and try to unpack all of this. So the reason why I think most of us, especially if we just met somebody new and it just seems like everything is working out great, we have so much in common, right? And we feel like we're in love, and we are in love. We actually the feeling of being in love is a really really powerful feeling, and I think it's misleading to some extent because a lot of us mistake that feeling as if it's real love. And that's where it gets a little tricky, folks. That's why I always caution people, definitely enjoy that phase of the relationship, that romantic phase, but realize that there's a lot more that's coming afterwards that we have to be aware of and be ready for, frankly. And that's why I do recommend, I did put out a video called The 4 Stages of a Relationship. If you haven't seen that yet, I would highly recommend that you guys go and check that video out. It actually outlines the 4 stages of a relationship. And the first stage is the romantic stage. And this is kind of what we're talking about here. The romantic stage can last a few months. It depends on how often the two people actually spend time together, how often they see each other, and also how vulnerable they are with each other. If you have someone, or if one or both parties are emotionally unavailable, then it may take a very long time for both of them to get to know each other. So it's going to depend on the situation, okay? But in general, if the romantic phase lasts about a few months. So, and that's what I term it as romantic love. It's when you hear people say, "Oh, I think I met the right one. I think this could be it. I'm in love." Right? All those powerful feelings, and they're wonderful feelings. Don't get me wrong. They are probably, you've heard me say, it's probably one of the best stages of the dating stages. It's the best because the feeling is just incredible, and so we all can appreciate the feelings of being in love. And so I just want to caution that the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I know a lot of couples who've been together for a while, or who've been married for a while. When that feeling does go away, then the couples automatically assume there's something wrong with the relationship. In reality, there's really nothing wrong with the relationship. It's just that you're on to the next stage. Okay. And so, it's just something to think about. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that up. And so then my other video, the 4 signs of real love, that's also worth checking out if you haven't seen it, where I outline briefly what it is for real love. And I know most of us know all this. A lot of things I talk about, once you hear it, I know you know what I'm talking about, right? But it doesn't hurt to be reminded, because when we're at the point of a relationship where we're frustrated, we're bored, we're unhappy, it's just a good thing to remind ourselves of why we fell in love to begin with. How do we get from point A to point B? How do we get from being in love to not being in love? And now we feel like there's something wrong with the relationship. So I just think it's worth it for all of us to be reminded of what real love is. Okay. So it's not being in love that determines the success of a relationship, but rather it's the actions that show real love. Let me say that again. It's not being in love that determines the success of a relationship, but rather it's the actions that show real love. We all know that actions speak louder than words. And, that's, we all know that, right? So, but I still get questions. I still hear a lot of people ask, how do I know it's real love? How do I know this is going to last forever? Um, how do I know that this person really cares for me, right? Well, this is how. It's by actions. During the romantic phase, everyone, you get to a point where people are verbalizing, the couples are verbalizing to each other, I love you, right? That's usually when people fall in love. Shortly afterwards, one or the other or both end up saying, I love you. Well, that's what gets kind of tricky, folks, because um, especially us women, right? When we hear those words, we kind of take it pretty seriously and we take it to heart. And but realize, ladies, I want to call you out here, okay? I can't speak for men, but ladies or men, if you can relate, when someone tells you they love you, it just at that stage in the beginning, romantic stage, it just means they like you very much and they want to spend more time with you. They want to get to know you more, okay? Hopefully it's not just because they want to get and go to sleep with you and have sex with you. Hopefully the feelings are genuine and they really like you and they want to get to it. So basically when they tell you I love you in the beginning, it just means that they really like you a lot. And we have to keep that, we have to keep that in the back of our minds, because a lot of us women, when a guy says I love you, we automatically assume that they're ready to get married, right? And that's not the case. There's a lot more there's a lot more stages following that romantic stage. So the 3 more stages, which I encourage you to check out that video, so you can understand what the rest of the stages are. But actions speak louder. And so I just want to give a little example of that. I know I know you all know what actions are, but I want to give an example from my life. And by the way, knowing if someone loves you, this doesn't apply just to romantic partners. This also applies to anyone in your life. If you wonder if your friend loves you, like if you have a girlfriend or guy friend and they say they love you and you're questioning that, go back and look at their actions, right? This applies to family, relatives, whoever is in your life that says I love you. If you're not sure they love you, stop for a moment and think about all the interactions you've had with them. What have they shown? What have they shown to you or done for you that shows that they love you, right? That's a very easy way to figure that out. It doesn't matter how much they tell you they like you, they love you. By words alone is not going to be enough, folks, and we all know that. Actions speak louder, okay? And not even, and my actions, I'm not even talking about buying gifts. I think it's nice when people want to show their love by giving you a gift, but in a way, it's not the same as actually physically trying to do something for you, okay? So I just want to keep that in mind. But okay, I just want to give you a quick example of what I've been shown as a child as what love is. I remember when I was about 10 or 12 years old, maybe around there, in my early teens, my brother and I, we used to take turns mowing the lawn for my dad, for our family. I say my dad because my mom had divorced my father at the time, so I always say my dad. But and so I remember so many times I'd be mowing the lawn and my dad always came out with the lawn chair and he'd sit there and watch me mow the lawn, right? And then he'd give me iced tea afterwards, after a while, just so to in case it was a hot day, if it was in the summertime, he would give me iced tea to cool me off. And that was his show of love, right? My father was not a man of many words. He didn't say I love you, but all of his children, my brother and sister, all of us knew that he loved us. And another quick example is I remember this was when I was older. I was in college and I was living at home and commuting to college every day. I remember every Saturday, and it used to aggravate me. I mean, thinking back at it now, I look at it in a different perspective. But back then, in my 20s, my early 20s, I did not appreciate. My father would come every Saturday morning. He'd wake up early, and he would come to my room, and then he would I had those old blinds. Remember the old days that those blinds that you roll up and down. I mean, for those of you that are millennials, you probably don't understand where I'm coming from. But back then, and now I'm dating myself at this point. But back then, blinds were very popular, right? Right. And so my dad would come in every Saturday morning and he'd say in Chinese, wake up. I am Chinese American. Um, but he'd say, wake up, right? And so he would go to the window and he would like flip up the blinds. The blinds went flying up, right? Bright as sun shining in. And I'm like, oh my God, I am trying to go to sleep here, right? Especially being in college, if I'm out late or I'm coming home late or I'm working, because I also worked while I was in college. So, I was tired on Friday night, go see a movie, come back late, I want to sleep, right, on Saturday morning. Well, that didn't happen. Every Saturday morning, my father had this habit, and it's a good habit. He'd wake up every morning and he'd make breakfast for us three children. And looking back at it now, it is a sign of love. It's while I may have not 100% appreciated it at the time. I think at the time I was probably more aggravated that I wasn't getting enough sleep. But looking back at it now, it was definitely his way of showing that he loved us. He got up early in the morning just so he could cook breakfast for us children, and that's something that's a memory I will remember for the rest of my life. And I just want to pass that on to you guys. I know you guys have examples also of people or parents or other people in your life that have shown you love, shown you real love. And that's what I want you to think about. The next time you are wondering if so-and-so, if you're dating somebody and you're wondering if they love you, look at their actions. If you're currently in a relationship or if you're currently married, same thing. If you have a doubt about whether somebody cares for you or loves you, take a moment quietly and think about what your spouse or your partner or whoever that you're wondering about. Take a moment and think about what have they done, right? What have they done to contribute to the relationship to show you that they love you? And when you see that their actions speak louder, then you'll know your answer. Now, I'm not saying that that words don't mean anything, that words shouldn't be said. Absolutely, that's not what I'm saying. I think, the best situation, obviously, if someone could verbalize and say I love you and show it, right? That would be the ideal situation, but not everyone not everyone is comfortable with verbalizing it or showing it. Some of our parents are still very old-fashioned. Some of the cultures out there are not really for that. Okay, we have all different cultures, and not all cultures are expressive, and in some cultures just do it by actions. So again, it's something to think about. And so to demonstrate love through actions holds significantly more weight than just feelings of being in love. I think the romantic feelings that are experienced early in the romantic stage of a relationship is very much overrated. While the newness of a relationship feels euphoric, it's a temporary feeling that hasn't evolved yet to the reality stage of the relationship. And that's what I was talking about earlier, the 4 stages that I had talked about. This is the second stage after romantic stage, is the reality stage. The reality of a relationship is recognizing each other's true colors, flaws, and imperfections, and how a couple functions as a team, given the daily challenges of incorporating the individual personalities and the differences that's between them. Okay, so let me just repeat that. The reality of a relationship, which is the reality stage, is recognizing each other's true colors, flaws, and imperfections, and how a couple functions as a team, given the daily challenges of incorporating the individual personalities and the differences between them. For a relationship to be successful, it requires jointly putting forth the daily effort and successfully solving these challenges inherent in the relationship. So while being in love is nice, it's not the spice of a successful relationship. So let me just say this again. For a relationship to be successful, this is another question that I hear very often, is how do I build or maintain a successful relationship? What does a successful relationship look like? For a relationship to be successful, it requires jointly putting forth the effort. Both parties have to put forth the effort and successfully solving those challenges inherent in the relationship. And what I mean by challenges, I mean anything that comes up, any kind of conflict, disagreement. Folks, we have to do a better job in resolving conflict. Most of us, especially after we get married or we move in and we're in a long-term relationship, we get lazy. And by lazy, I mean we just kind of just ignore the problems. Okay. I know, it's never pleasant trying to resolve conflict. Okay. I don't think anyone enjoys it. Okay. It's sometimes it requires confrontation. It requires courage to get out of your comfort zone. For those of us who are shy and we're the people pleasers, right? It's very challenging to get out of our comfort zone and to take the initiative to go to our partner and try to resolve conflict. And this also applies to friendships as well. If you have a good friend that something's bothering you, we need to speak up, folks. It's not helping the relationships that we're in if we don't say anything and we keep the uncomfort, the anger or frustration or the stress inside of us. It's not healthy. Eventually it's going to come out. And then when it does come out, it probably won't come out in a palpable, constructive way. Usually when people they let their emotion, they stuff their emotions, eventually they just blow up, and then it becomes very inappropriate at that point. Okay. And people are just kind of struck with left field. Those are the kind of situations where you go, wow, where did this come from? This came from left field, right? All of a sudden there's all this anger and angst at us. It's like, what do we do wrong? Right. Well, this is what happens. This is why we need to keep up and maintain our relationships. If something's bothering you, or something's bothering, or you're with someone and they're upset, you need to approach them, okay, in a calm way, and let's talk it over. We need to resolve conflict. So a successful relationship is when two people can put forth the effort to resolve conflict, and being in love, while it's nice, it's not the spice of life. And this brings us to our topic of conversation for today. The spice of a relationship is the 5 signs, which I'm going to talk about, is the 5 signs, and it's in the spelling of the word spice. Now, I just made this up. It's just a little cute thing I made up, that being in love is nice, but it's not the spice of a relationship. So I know it's a little corny, folks. I can be a little corny at times, but it serves the purpose here. So just roll with me on this, okay? So the spice of a successful relationship is in the 5 signs. Okay, the word spice, SPICE. Okay, so the first one is the letter S. It's for solving problems. This is just what we just talked about. It's important to solve problems in relationships. Ignoring the problems will only create more problems and negativity that will fester as more problems keep piling up, and before you know it, you feel nothing ever gets resolved. Both feel frustrated and argue over the same issues all the time. Have you guys been in those kind of relationships? I'm sure you have. I think most of us have, whether you're married or not married, or you've been in a long-term relationship. How many of us, we seem like every time we argue, it's always the same old issues, right? It's like nothing ever gets resolved. We just get angry and angrier, more frustrated and more frustrated. It's because, folks, we're not resolving the conflicts. Okay? So we have to learn to resolve and solve problems. Most of us experience this and are still experiencing this now and feel our relationship is failing. And that's what happens after a while, folks. If this goes on for years and you guys are still arguing over the same problems, and no one's taking the initiative to resolve the problems, you will eventually get frustrated to the point that you will feel unhappy. And then one or both of you will feel like your relationship is failing. This is why, okay? So it's the resolution stage of what I refer to as one of the stages of a relationship. And this is, by the way, this is the 3rd stage. Okay, as I call the resolution stage of the relationship. And that's where you have to resolve conflict. Okay, I call that the stage of resolution, meaning that you have to resolve or dissolve conflict. Meaning we either need to resolve the conflicts, or we need to think about really, or if we can't resolve the conflicts, then we may have to dissolve the relationship, which is always the last resort. I'm not in favor of just ending a relationship because people can't resolve conflict. I think that's kind of extreme, right? I think most conflicts can be resolved. At the very least, we can come to a compromise. Certainly, I don't think it's. I think it's kind of irrational and extreme to go ending a relationship over conflict, right? So, but I do say resolve or dissolve. I think those are the obvious options that we need to think about if we're in a relationship where we have not resolved some of our problems. We need to resolve them. Okay. Okay, so conflicts must be resolved either by reaching an agreement or compromise that is in the best interest of both partners. Okay, I just said, and I did on one of my other previous videos, I did talk about how to compromise and how important that is. But the ideal compromise is when you can come to a solution that works for both of you, not just one of you, but both of you. Okay, if you both can't come to an agreement, then the next step is you have to come to a compromise, and that's when you have to realize that you guys are a team. You're two. It's not I and you, but we as a team. As a team, we need to be able to solve problems together, and we also need to come to a solution together, and we also need to come to a compromise. If nothing else, if you're like two people butting heads, right? Let's say you both have strong personalities or you both have strong opinions, you can't come to a solution. You've got to compromise. There's no other way around it. So it's not your way or my way, but it's our way. Okay, in one of my videos, I did talk about that. So please feel free to check out my other videos when you get a chance. Okay, the second letter is P. P for pleasing. And pleasing just means we're doing things to accommodate each other. Okay, are both partners making effort to please each other and be accommodating sometimes? If you live long enough with someone, you learn what makes each other happy. So it's important to sometimes do those things to please your partner and show your appreciation. If your spouse is going through a difficult time or just feeling overwhelmed, having a bad day, then going out of your way to please them or be accommodating to lighten their load in the hopes of positively improving their mood by seeing them smile is worth it. Okay? So again, sometimes when we've been, and oftentimes I should say, when we've been in a relationship long enough, we take each other for granted and we forget to do the small things, which is pleasing each other, right? We just forget. And folks, trust me, you know, if you're having a bad day, wouldn't you want your partner to try to find ways to make you happy, please you, accommodate you? All right? I mean, of course. And our partners should deserve the same in return, right? So there's something to keep in mind. You know, part of being in a successful relationship is to be pleasing at times. And then the third one is I. I for intentional. Intentional versus being lazy. Being intentional is a decision to wake up every morning and put your best foot forward for your partner. It's the daily striving to show up as the best version of yourself, so you don't fall into the typical patterns of what I refer to as laziness, craziness, which is taking each other for granted. The laziness of taking each other for granted commonly happens in long-term relationships or marriages where both partners get comfortable in the relationship and feel they can just coast along with minimal or no effort to sustain the relationship. So let me just stop right here. I also did a video recently that's called Laziness, Craziness. Well, part of the title is Laziness, Craziness. I would highly recommend that video if you haven't seen it. It's how to avoid a toxic relationship, and the number one sign is laziness, craziness. It's a little cute little phrase I made up, but I think it has a lot of meaning here. Okay, and so that's what laziness, craziness is. If you become lazy, if you don't choose to be intentional and you become lazy, eventually it's a downward spiral. And if you're not taking care of your relationship and you're being lazy towards each other, it will eventually get crazy. Okay. And we all know that doesn't work for the longevity and for the success of a relationship, because what usually happens is that the partners become lazy, the relationship will eventually become crazy, which we just said. Think of something you value, like a car for you men, or a vegetable or flower garden for you ladies. All right, so now we're going to talk about examples of what I'm talking about here. So for you men, think about a car, okay? And women, think about a garden, a vegetable or flower garden. Both the car and the garden require regular maintenance to keep the car running smoothly and for the garden to grow. A car will break down and stop working if not properly maintained regularly, right, guys? I know you know this, right? So just like a car needs to be maintained, And likewise, the vegetables and flowers will be overgrown with weeds, unwanted insects and fungus, and eventually rot and die. Okay, so I mean, for you women, if you know about, doing the gardening for plants and vegetables, we all know that if you don't maintain that garden, it will eventually be overgrown with weeds, and eventually the plants are gonna die. All right. So being intentional is a daily conscious decision to put your best foot forward in effort to show up as the best version of yourself for your partner. Let me just say this again. So being intentional is a daily conscious decision to put your best foot forward in effort to show up as the best version of yourself for your partner. Okay, so that's I for intentional. The next one is C for contributions, which we talked about. The first thing today was about actions. Okay, so it's contributions to a relationship are the actions you actually put forth to contribute to the relationship. Earlier, when I was talking about the principle of actions speak louder than words, it applies directly to the contributions both make in their relationship or marriage. So, examples of, for instance, we're going to take the examples of a marriage, and you can also take this. It can also be a relationship too, not just a marriage, but a long-term relationship. Examples of a woman contributing is doing indoor chores such as cooking, cleaning, laundry, taking care of kids, if you're a housewife. Okay, those are just examples that I just came up with quickly. And keep in mind, it doesn't necessarily have to be gender specific. Obviously, there are relationships where the roles are reversed, where you have the man staying home, being the husband, the house husband, and the woman's out there being the breadwinner. So feel free to switch these roles up. I'm just giving examples of I'm just giving general examples, and if it's just an example of what contributions are. So in your specific relationship, you can come up with your own examples, but this is just some examples that came up. Examples of a man contributing is repairing household items, taking out the trash, doing outdoor chores such as yard work, mowing the lawn, washing the cars, hanging Christmas lights. I know you men love that, right? Every year us women make you go out there in the cold and hang Christmas lights. But so these are just a few examples that I came up with as contributions to a relationship. And I'm sure if you guys think about it, there are other ways, creative ways you can contribute to a relationship, or you have been contributing to a relationship, okay? It's important for both parties to see and appreciate each other's contributions by the actions being done regularly and consistently that should not ever be taken for granted. These actions speak louder than words and will go a long way to build a successful relationship. Okay, so this is an area where we do take each other for granted, unfortunately, and this is why, again, we need to be aware of these things every day so that we don't take each other for granted. We need to realize what each partner is putting in to build the relationship and maintain the relationship, and we need to honor that. Okay, the fifth one is E for equality. Treating each other with equality and respect is very important. People need to first view their partner as an equal to respect them. And I want to stop right here. It's very hard to respect someone if you don't view them as an equal. Okay. And why I'm bringing this up, because I know when the relationship starts to go downhill, the respect is also, the disrespect is also there too. And I think this happens is because somewhere along the way, we're choosing not to resolve conflict anymore. We're arguing a lot more. Things said that may be really hurtful that we're not even addressing, right? So we get angrier, more resentful, and frustrated. And then we lose the respect for our partners. Now all of a sudden, one or both are not viewing each other as equals. We're viewing each other as adversaries, as someone that we're fighting against. And oftentimes one or both will view each other as inferior to the other. So there's not an equality in the relationship. Now it's like this, right? One person thinks they're above somebody, they're more superior. That's not healthy, folks. It happens a lot in relationships. When relationships start to deteriorate, that's what usually happens. Okay. Equality is the feeling that both partners view each other as having the same value, not viewing a partner as inferior or lesser. in the beginning of a relationship, when two people met, they chose to be in a relationship because they liked and respected one another, and as such, the respect naturally followed. Right? If you think back, if you think back about you and your partner when you first met early on in the dating stages, there was a lot of respect there. Right? You both liked each other. You wanted to spend time together, and the respect was there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chosen to commit to each other and be in a long-term relationship or be married, right? Obviously, you both respected each other. What happened to the respect? As I've said before, I think most couples tend to take each other for granted, and that's gradually um, gradually they aren't maintaining the relationship. Let me say it again. As I said before, I think most couples tend to take each other for granted, and gradually they are not maintaining the relationship. They're not maintaining the relationship anymore, and respect gets lost. Okay. In my opinion, in a long-term relationship, we need to always keep in mind that we are a team, meaning we are equal in a team. Both partners matter and need to consider the opinions and feelings of each other and be proactive to work toward a mutual agreement or compromise when resolving conflict. If we don't remember to treat one another as equals with respect, it will lead to laziness, craziness. So if you haven't seen that video, I would highly recommend it. It's going to be very helpful. That video will also offer ideas of how you can avoid the continual spiral of your relationship. It does address ways to avoid that cycle of laziness, craziness. So if you haven't seen that video, please go and watch it. I think you'll find it very helpful. So in summary, to build a successful relationship, we need to consider these 5 things, the 5 signs that help to make a successful relationship. Is to solve conflicts, resolve conflict as quick as possible, pleasing, remember to be pleasing and accommodating to each other, intentional, to put your best foot forward each day, contribute, to do your part to contribute through actions, and equality, treat each other with equal respect. So folks, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it resonates with you guys. If you do, please click like and click share and subscribe to my channel, so that you can be notified of all my videos that are coming up. And I feel free, if you have questions, comments, please put that in the comments section. And I hope this helps, and hope you guys are consciously building a successful relationship every single day. Okay? So until next time, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you again soon. Bye.